Nice, shalom, shalom. I'm going to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops, a great millstone while I learn this truth. 100% according to the Bible. Also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophet service scattered abroad the four corners of the earth, and shalom to the Yaakov, which are the sisters that are sincere in your children, shalom. And in today's video, as you can see, it's going to be a video touching on this guy who's talking about this cashless society, which we know is coming because it's all part of prophecy. All of these roads are leading up to the MOTB hip, right? So I got this little quick video that I'm allowed to play, and I'm going to get a few precepts, and Lord's willing to be edifying, you know, just a little quick hit. But before I start the video, I want to say fair use on the 1976 Copyright Act. I'm not getting paid for this video. This is only for educational purposes only.
Currency. This is all accepted. This is all accepted. This is not theory. It's programmable. They can program a digital currency to mean you can only spend it on certain things and you can't spend it on others not designated by the government. And it's programmable so it can only be spent in a certain area. So if you go outside of your zone, your money won't work. And not only that,
right? And you hear what it is he's basically saying, you know, and I'm gonna get a precept real quick touching on that. This is 2 Corinthians 2:11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And that word devices goes into his tricks, his schemes, his tactics, you know, all of the different things. And Satan, you know, that can work in double fold. It can also mean, you know, the spiritual demon Satan, as well as, you know, the spiritual counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, which is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. And we're not ignorant of his devices. And that's ultimately what he wants to do. That's all part of his NWO agenda, which is to bring forth a system where you're going to basically have to, you know, have an implantable device in order to buy or sell, and that they're going to keep track of all of your payments, and they're going to be able to, you know, decide what it is you can get and what you cannot get. That's the whole part of their NWO system, you know, being in full control. And we know these things are going to come, man. You know, as it says in this precept, this is Habakkuk 2:3. It said, for the vision, right, meaning the prophecies, MOTB hip is a part of prophecy. It said, as yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. A lot of these people that you hear talking about these different types of things, these are insiders, people that already know the goals of the elites and know that these things will come in the near future. That's why they talk about them, you know, and things like that, because these are people that, you know, be around these people that they ultimately, you know the plan of the elites, and that's to bring forth this digital system, man. Right, which is going to lead and bring in that MOTB, right?
it means that when you go past one of these number plate cameras when you, quote, shouldn't, you won't be able to challenge the fine, because the fine will be taken out of your digital account the moment you transgress. This is what's happening.
You inject materials into your body that essentially create the equivalent of an operating system and a receiver, and you can literally hook everybody up to the cloud. And that includes hooking them up in a way that their transaction system, you know, the Bible calls it the...
You hear what she's saying, right?
Mark of the beast is one way people know this stuff, but you're basically talking about being able to digitally identify and track people in connection with their financial transactions. So it's a world of zero privacy.
And you just heard her say what she said, you know. She just said that in the Bible, they call it the mark of the beast. So that's letting you know that these elites, man, these different people in these high places, they know what it is that they're going to push on everybody. And they know that a lot of people know what it is. You know, only those who the Lord is ultimately dealing with. But they know that people know that it's the MOTB that they're going to come with, which is that RFID chip, man, which they're going to put in everybody to make mandatory as the new form of payment, man. That's what's coming soon, right?
But more importantly, what's important to understand is if you then institute one or more central bank cryptos, you're now talking about a system where every central bank in the world can shut you off individually from transacting if they don't like the way you're behaving. So many people are familiar with the social credit system in China. It's very similar. You're basically, if you install the smart grid in their car, their community, and now literally in their body, you've got 24/7 surveillance. And if people don't do what you say and behave the way you want, they can and will shut off your money. So,
right, and you basically hear what it is that they're saying. And that's what's coming, man. And I'm going to go to that precept, right? This is Revelation chapter 13. And I'm going to start at verse 16 in the KJV. And it says, and he, right, that he talking about these elites, man. The ones that ultimately agenda it is to ultimately to want to put these chips in everybody and to want to have, complete and utter control over the world, right? That's their agenda. That's Esau's mindset, right? The Rothschilds, the Gettys, the DuPonts, the Rockefellers, all of these different types of high-ranking elite banking families, right? Causeth all, right, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, right, to receive a mark, right? That Greek word mark goes into charagma, right? And when you go into that word charagma, it goes into basically like a print, an imprint, or a stamp. And that's what they're going to do to everybody. They're going to stamp you with this mark. All the people that's not going to take it, obviously, are the Lord's elect. Lord's will we be at that number. But everybody else, they're going to take this device, man. A good amount of people, and it says in their right hand or in their foreheads, right? And this is going to be the new tool of payment, right? You won't be able to buy or sell unless you have this thing, right? As it tells you in the next verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell, right? Save he or she that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, right? So in order for you to basically, to contribute to this society that's coming, to be able to buy, to be able to sell, to be able to, go to the mall, do the things in which it is you people are doing now, all of that's soon about to come to an end, man. And the only way you're going to be able to function in society is if you have this mark, man, right? And that's why it's called in Revelations 3 and 10, the hour of temptation, man, because a lot of people are going to be tempted to take it in this time because, like I said, they're going to want to still do the things of the world. They're going to still want to buy. They're going to still want to sell. They're going to still want to purchase. They're going to still want to go to the clubs and the parks and going out to eat and, all of this just little stuff they do now, right? That's what's going to make a lot of these people take that chip, man. Them wanting to be a part of society, them wanting to, ultimately not let go of the world and the things that are in it, right? And that's why, it says this, right? I'm going to go to that precept. This is 1 John, verse 2. Well, chapter 2, verse 15. And it said, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If a man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him, right? And that's what's going to make a lot of people take that mark, like I said before, because they have the love of the world in them and not the love of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. So they're going to be ultimately just seeking to try to fulfill their lustly and pleasurable desires that they want, right? Trying to crave and please the flesh ultimately. And that's going to lead to them taking that device, man, right? From this devil, taking his mark, taking his his charagma. And we know ultimately the people that take that mark, man, that the Lord has a special judgment coming for those people, man. That take that chip. You're going to be ultimately destroyed by the Heavenly Father and the Son, man. And I'm going to go to a precept just proving that. This is Revelations chapter 14, right? And I'm going to start at verse 9, right? But the point is at verse 10. But I'm going to start at verse 9. It says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast, right, and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, right, the same shall drink of the wine of wrath of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone, right, in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. That's talking about ultimately the thermonuclear destruction right along with the laser beams of the chariots. That's going to basically come upon those that receive this device inside of themselves, man. You're going to be judged by the Lord, man. A special judgment is going to come for those people that take this mark, man. That's why we advise you people, to not take it, of course, but we know, a lot of people going to take it, man. We just pray to the Lord, Yahweh Ratazah, that we be of the elect, that we do not take it. We want to be the ones that the Lord can, ultimately get through this hour of temptation. And that's why a lot of people are going to take it, like I said before, because like I said, people are not going to have power. They're not going to have food. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of reasons to why people are going to take this thing, man. Like I said, they're going to want to still, have a normal life. They're not going to want to suffer. They're not going to want to fully trust in the Lord. They rather trust in this devil, man, and his system. They're not going to put their hope and trust in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. And that's why they're going to ultimately, take this chip. Right, but this is Revelation 3:10. This is what we want ultimately to happen to us. Lord's will, we be the elect. We want the Lord to deliver us from this hour, man, that we don't take this chip. Right? It said, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. And that's what we ultimately want the Lord to do for us. We want him to keep us away from this hour. We want to make it through this time. We want to endure through all of this. We want to fully have our trust and our mind invested in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua and trusting in him and knowing that he's going to provide for us during this time, during the time when you can't eat or buy or sell or whatever. If you don't have this mark, you got to fully have faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua in these times, man, to get you through them, right? Because like I said, it's going to be an hour of tempting, man, which is a test, right? And a lot of people are going to fail that test, man, but we want to pass this test, right? And the Lord's elect are going to pass the test. That's why we say Lord's will, we be at that number, man, because they're going to make it through while everybody else is going to, bow down to Esau, bow down to this system, bow down and take that chip. Lord's will, we not, But I'm going to get back into this video.
And they'll also have spatial control. If they say you can't travel more than 5 miles, that's it. Because you're in a complete digital control system. And it's controlled by the central bankers through the money. We're digitizing everything, but it includes the human body as well, and the human mind. So this system comes with complete control not only of your ability to transact financially, which is hooked up to your body, but very sophisticated mind control technology through the media and those cloud connections. So basically, you're talking about hooking up into the Borg.
Right. So you basically just heard what it is she said. She basically said that once you take that chip, because that's what she's going into detail about, those that take that RFID chip. We heard her say earlier that, ultimately that it's the mark of the beast. She literally said it out of her mouth. Right. So we know that, like I said, once you take that chip, man, you're going to this devil is going to have full control over you, man. He's going to be able to control your mind. He's going to be able to control what you buy, you sell. He's going to know what you're putting inside of your body as far as food. He's going to know all those things once you take this mark. And like she said, you're going to be hooked up to this digital system, man. So they're going to know everything that you're doing, right? That's why it's going to be a judgment for those that take it, man, because you basically making this man your Lord. Once you take his mark, man, you basically giving him power and authority over you. And the Lord is going to destroy you, man, right? For those men or women that take it.
So basically, you're talking about hooking up into the Borg, if you will. And so transhumanism, technocracy go hand in hand. Now, I would describe this as a slavery system. So we're talking about shifting out of freedom, where we have freedom to roam and freedom to say what we want, into a complete control system 24/7, including mind control. Now, the challenge before us is if the, sort of the committee that runs the world, my nickname being Mr. Global, if Mr. Global wants to go to a slavery system and we want to remain a human civilization, then we have a fundamental disagreement, and that is the disagreement before us.
And we get to the diagrams here.
Okay. So if you look at what's going on, we have the tech people building the clouds and the telecommunications. We have the military doing space and Operation Warp Speed. So they're putting up the satellites. Okay. Then
right. You hear what she's saying? Everything she's saying is going into how this devil is setting up his digital system, man, where he's setting up this system to where everybody can be monitored, controlled, surveilled, and all of these different types of things, That's all part of his New World Order agenda, to have full control over everything and everybody, man, And it's coming, that chip is coming, man, It's all part of prophecy, it has to come, it's going to happen, And we're seeing the beginning stages of it, you know. That's why you see the U.S. dollar beginning to collapse. You know, that's why you're seeing Donald Trump, when he came into the office, he just passed a bill to where they're stopped making pennies, man. You know, so if they're not making pennies anymore, how long is it going to be before they stop making dollars? Then, you know, credit cards, and now to the point where, hey, if you want to basically buy or sell, right, you're going to have to take that chip. That's what everything is leading up to, you know, is gradualism, right? And I'm going to that word gradualism, right, for edification's sake, because this is what he's doing. That's why he's getting people used to, you know, tapping their phones on, you know, you can pay for groceries now with your phone, man. A lot of people, they just scan their phone through the chip that they may have implanted in their cell phone, and they're able to buy groceries and things of that nature with. So they're already controlling and programming people's mind to, you know, just to tap and to scan, because soon to come, like I said, it's going to be your hand that is going to be the new form of payment, and you just can scan your hand, and people are going to be already programmed, right, through all of these other methods that they have set up and allowed them to pay through. That is not going to be anything new to these people. They're going to be like, well, I might as well pay with my hand. You know, I've been paying with my card and my phone, and, you know, it's really just, like I said, it's gradualism, you know, gradually getting people to conform to something, right? Which they want people to conform to this new system that they're bringing, right? So this is the meaning of that word gradualism, right? And it goes into, it means a policy of gradual reform rather than sudden change or revolution, right? Because ultimately Esau knows that he just can't ultimately force this mark upon people. People are not going to accept it. So like I said, he got to do it slowly. And he been doing this through generations, man, through, you know, years and years and years of, you know, programming, you know, getting people mind through the technology to become one with technology. Like the woman was saying, you know, transhumanism, you know, you already got a lot of people now that are pulling Neuralink chips in their brain and all type of other madness, people getting chipped up in other places around the world. So it's not far-fetched that soon to come that, you know, everybody is going to want to receive this mark, man, right? Mainly, all the people that's not going to receive it, like I said, are, you know, the men of the Lord, man, the people that ultimately know what it is. But a lot of these people are going to take this thing, man, you know, and that's going to be because they're going to be gradually manipulated and conformed to this system, man, right? And ultimately, due to them not being of the Lord's elect, man. So the Lord is going to allow them to take that mark so they can ultimately be destroyed, you know. So I'm going to get back into the video.
We have Big Pharma, which is making the injections that are full of these mystery ingredients and modify your DNA, and for all we know, make you infertile. And then we have the media pouring out the propaganda. And then we have the central bankers engineering to the central bank crypto systems. So you have these different pillars, and it's very important when you look at what's going on day to day, particularly in the media. They're trying to keep them separate so that you can't see how they're going to come together in an integrated system, which is basically integrated into your body and your mind.
For what purpose?
To institute the slavery system. So in other words, if I am going to do everything through a smart grid, and I need to run the smart grid into your neighborhood, and then I need to run the smart grid into your body, the question is, how am I going to build it out in your neighborhood and build it out in your body without you seeing the trap?
Right. So you basically just heard what it is she said. You know, she basically just laid everything out on the table. Like, that's their goal and that's their agenda, and that's ultimately what they're going to come with. You know, they're going to come with that new world order, man, and that chip, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. You know, just a quick hit through the spirit. Lord's willing to be edifying. To the next time, I'm going to say shalom to the elect.